The river was never silent. Even on still nights, when the air hung heavy and the moonlight rippled across black water, you could hear it, low, steady, almost like a whisper. Locals said it wasn't the water at all. They said it was the dead. The Appalachian River had a history carved in loss. Floods that swallowed entire cabins. Ferrymen pulled under by unseen hands. Children who vanished during summer swims, their bodies never recovered. And when the fog rolled down from the mountains and clung to the surface, people swore they could hear voices, soft, pleading, carried downstream. Tonight, the fog was thicker than usual. A group of friends stood at the bank, lantern light trembling in their hands. They weren't locals. They'd come from the city, chasing ghost stories. The river had called to them in hushed rumors. One of them laughed nervously. "Doesn't sound so haunted to me. Just water." But even as he spoke, the air grew colder. A sudden gust stirred the trees, rattling dry branches like bones. The river's flow deepened, shifting from a soft murmur to a groan. The sound was unmistakable now, like someone breathing beneath the surface. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Their lanterns flickered. The fog thickened until they couldn't see the opposite bank. And then a splash. Sudden. Violent. Too close. One of the girls gasped and stepped back, her boots sinking into the mud. She swore she'd seen a hand rise up out of the water. Pale. Human. Fingers stretching, then vanishing into the current. The others laughed it off, but no one could shake the feeling that the river wasn't just moving. It was watching. Behind them, the woods had gone silent. No crickets. No owls. Just the constant whisper of water. The tallest of the group, trying to mask his unease, leaned forward with the lantern. He squinted into the fog. For a second, he thought he saw faces. Blurred, drifting just beneath the surface. He blinked, and they were gone. But the whisper was louder now, words straining to be heard. The lantern sputtered, almost going out, and then a voice, low and wet, slithered through the mist. "Come closer." The river's whisper had become a command. The group froze. No one admitted to hearing it out loud, but their faces betrayed the truth. Each of them had heard that same voice drift across the fog. The lantern light quivered. The river seemed to lean toward them now, as if the current itself was drawing closer. One of the friends, Tyler, forced a laugh. Probably just the wind, but his voice cracked. The others noticed. The girl who had seen the hand, her name was Elise, clutched her coat tighter. Wind doesn't sound like that. She stared at the water, her breath rising in shallow clouds. It sounded like words. The current shifted again, pulling downstream with unnatural force. Beneath the surface, bubbles rose and popped like gas escaping from something buried deep below. For a heartbeat, it looked as though shapes moved in the water, figures twisting just under the surface. One of the friends leaned forward, grabbing a flat stone, eager to break the tension with a childish throw. He tossed it into the river. The splash echoed strangely, longer than it should have. Instead of ripples, the water seemed to swallow the stone whole. And then they heard it. Laughter. Thin, gurgling, rising from beneath the waves. Every lantern flickered at once. Shadows stretched unnaturally tall across the fog. Tyler spun around, convinced someone was behind them. But the woods were empty, only the sound of their own heartbeats in their ears. Elise took a step closer to the water, almost hypnotized. She swore she could see something beneath the surface. Not reflections, not tricks of the fog, but faces, eyes wide, mouths open, screaming silently as the current dragged them downstream. Suddenly, the river surged upward, as though something massive had shifted beneath it. A wave slammed against the bank, splattering their boots with icy water. The smell of rot followed, strong enough to make them gag. They stumbled back, but Elise didn't move. Her lips parted, her eyes glazed. "They're calling me," she whispered. The others pulled at her arms, shaking her, but her body stiffened as if anchored to the ground. Her gaze never left the river. And then, for the briefest second, everyone saw it, hands. Dozens of them, pressed against the underside of the water as though it were glass. Twisting, reaching, beckoning. The fog swallowed the vision before anyone could scream. But the river wasn't whispering anymore. It was singing. The song was unlike anything human. Low, mournful, rising and falling with the current. It seemed to seep into their bones, vibrating in their chests like a second heartbeat. The group stumbled back from the bank, but the sound clung to them, wrapping around their thoughts like mist. Elise's voice cracked as she whispered, "They want us to know." The others tried to pull her away, but the river answered before they could speak. Images flashed across their minds, visions not their own. A flood, long ago. Cabins torn apart like paper. People clinging to trees as the water devoured them whole. Faces of mothers, fathers, children, their mouths opening in screams that no one could hear above the roar. The visions shifted. Men on rafts overturned, their bodies sucked under by unseen hands. A ferryman dragged beneath the surface by something that didn't belong to this world. Year after year, soul after soul, claimed by the current. The group gasped for air as the visions ended. Their heads pounded. Their eyes burned. It was as if the river itself had shoved its history into their minds. One of them, Jordan, muttered through trembling lips, "It's them, the drowned ones." The water churned violently, froth rising to the surface. For an instant, pale shapes appeared in the current. Not fish, not debris, human forms. Twisting, drifting. Their skin was gray, their eyes clouded, their mouths locked open in an endless scream. The figures floated closer, their bodies never breaking the surface, trapped just beneath. The current dragged them in circles, as though the river would not let them go. Tyler cursed under his breath and grabbed Elise's arm again. "We're leaving. Now." But the river had other plans. The lanterns flared so brightly they nearly burst, then went out all at once. The world plunged into darkness, broken only by the faint shimmer of moonlight on the water. And in that silence, the drowned ones rose higher, their faces pressing against the surface, skin rippling like wet parchment. Fingers clawed upward, the current pulling their movements in grotesque unison. Elise let out a scream that split the night. She swore she felt cold hands around her ankles, dragging her toward the edge. The others rushed to pull her back, but when they looked down, there were handprints in the mud. Dozens. Fresh. Wet. Fingers reaching up from below. And the river's song grew louder. The mud sucked at Elise's boots as she thrashed, clawing at her friend's arms. Her screams were drowned out by the roar of rushing water that hadn't been there seconds ago. The once calm current had transformed into a violent surge, frothing white as though enraged. Tyler pulled with all his strength, veins straining against his skin. But each tug seemed matched by an unseen force dragging Elise the opposite way. Her feet slid closer to the water's edge. "In." The others joined in, gripping her coat, her wrists, anything to keep her grounded. But then, a pale hand burst from the water, gripping Elise's ankle. Its skin was bloated, fingers swollen, nails cracked to the quick. Another hand followed, then another. Soon, half a dozen clammy arms were wrapped around her legs, pulling her toward the river. Her friends shrieked in unison, yanking harder. For a moment, it looked like she might break free. But then the current rose in a wall of black water, surging higher than the bank. It didn't crash like a wave. It lunged, reaching forward like something alive. The lanterns, forgotten in the chaos, flared back to life with an unnatural glow. The light revealed dozens of faces swirling in the water, eyes bulging, mouths open in eternal screams. Jordan shouted over the roar, "Don't look at them!" But it was too late. Elise's gaze locked onto the faces beneath the surface. Her body went rigid, her scream cutting off as her expression went blank. Her friend's desperate hands slipped. With one final yank, the river claimed her. She vanished beneath the churning black. The group collapsed in horror, staring at the place where she'd been. For a second, there was only silence. Then the water stilled, perfectly calm, as if nothing had happened at all. Tyler stumbled forward, dropping to his knees, tears streaking his face. He reached toward the surface, whispering her name. That's when he saw it, her reflection. Elise's face, staring back at him from the water. But it wasn't her. The eyes were wrong, clouded, empty. And her mouth, it was moving, forming words. He leaned closer, straining to hear. Her voice bubbled up from beneath the surface, twisted and broken. Join me. And before he could pull back, something cold seized his wrist. Tyler's scream tore through the night as the icy grip tightened around his wrist. The others lunged to pull him back, but the river was no longer just water. It was alive. The current surged upward, wrapping around his arm like a serpent, dragging him forward inch by inch. For a heartbeat, they all thought he was gone. But then the current let go. Tyler tumbled backward, coughing, clutching his arm. His skin was pale, frost spreading across the veins as though the river had left its mark. No one spoke. They only stared at the water, where Elise's reflection still lingered, smiling. The fog began to lift, but the silence remained. The river was calm again, deceptively so, carrying on as if nothing had happened. A soft ripple crossed the surface, and more faces appeared beneath the moonlight, unfamiliar, yet countless. The drowned ones, watching, waiting. Jordan finally whispered the truth none of them wanted to admit. They don't let go. Not ever. The group staggered back into the woods, lanterns trembling in their hands. None of them dared look behind. But even as the trees closed in around them, the sound of the river followed, whispering, singing, promising. Back at the bank, the current swirled. A pale hand broke the surface for just a second, reaching toward the stars before vanishing again. The river was patient. It always had been. And it would wait for the next soul who dared to listen. Because here, in the Appalachian night, the current never sleeps. And neither do the dead. If you ever find yourself near the Appalachian River, don't listen too closely. Don't lean in. Don't follow the whispers. Because the current remembers every soul it has taken, and it's always hungry for more. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and join us again, because there are darker legends still waiting to be told.